What's good? I'm reluctant to talk about what I'm going to talk about, not because of um, fear of being censored or whatever, but just because it's like I know for the most part people who watch my content or listen to the things that I say already know this, but for whatever reason or another, like it's been really bothering me. So before I get into the story, make sure you go subscribe, like the video. um, you know, these slave master algorithms is killing my page. Um, Even more so than it was before. I mean, videos. I don't understand how I got 660 something subscribers, but yet I only get 4 or 5 views on a video. That shit don't even make sense. I got 32 subscribers on BitChute, and yet I got videos that get upwards of 150 views or more, depending on uh, how much I guess interaction the video gets. I guess it goes out to more people, but it's just incomprehensible to me that I have 32 subscribers on BitChute, 664 subscribers on YouTube, and on YouTube I get 5 to 6 views, and on BitChute I get 150 or more views, depending on what topic I'm talking about, of course. With that being said, oh, and also don't forget to go to my Rumble and subscribe there too. Um, I want to put more content up there, more raw stuff, but nobody is going there to subscribe. So I'm just humbly asking, please go to Rumble, so start subscribing so I can start putting content up there and more raw content than this type of content, which I have to play word games and shit like that and scrabble with my sentences to try to get across my points. So please, just if you like my stuff, if you think someone you know would like it, pass on the word, give me a like, subscribe. Let's try to overcome the algorithm Nazis, and hopefully, we can. Some of the things that I'm talking about could be of value. Anyways, back to the main story here. Um, it's infuriating to me that we are 2 plus years into this bullshit, and by bullshit, y'all know what I'm talking about. And we know so much now. We know so much more than we did 2 years ago. Um, it's easy for me to sit here and say I've known more 2 years ago. It's only gotten deeper. The rabbit hole's even gotten deeper than what I thought it was in 2 years ago. But we know that wearing a catcher's mask doesn't do anything. It's literally like wearing a catcher's mask. It doesn't do anything. And what really prompted me to even do this video was I was kind of having this conversation in my head about it because of what happened yesterday. Because my mom is currently in a rehabilitation center, and I guess people haven't been doing what they were supposed to be doing, and people have been letting visitors come through a side door or whatnot. And I wasn't. I've gone there at least 7 times, and nobody has ever said, "Hey, don't come this way." You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, yesterday, I'm being told you can't come this way. Like, okay, like, well, no one said anything to me about it. This is the first I'm hearing about it, and it made me started thinking. It made me start to think because when I spoke to the person at the front desk when I was leaving, um, because I had some questions like, you know, for one, no one ever told me about having to come to the front desk because when I first came in, I they let me in and they asked who was there to see, and they said, "Oh, she's right down the hall," and that was it. But she started going off on this rant, I guess, because they've been having problems and of people catching, the Branch Covidian. So, you know, I was just kind of like, okay, like, well, it seems like you got to work something out with them nurses back there. That. So she's like all flustered and shit, and she's like, "Oh well, you're supposed to be tested for the Branch Covidians," and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm up in here having to wear a fucking face catcher's mask, and now you tell me I need to be also tested for the Branch Covidian. So I started thinking to myself, then what the fuck is the point of the catcher's mask? Because if it was as effective as they say that it is, then there would be no need for me to also be tested for the Branch Covidian. So I'm very perplexed and confused about this. And I think what pushed me over the edge to even do a video about this is more like a venting than anything else, because I'm a Boolean programmer, and if you don't know what a Boolean is, that just means a true or false, one or zero. One being true, zero being false. Now, or it's also kind of like binary, two zeros and ones, but that's not what this video is about. But what really pushed me over the edge was I seen an email come in, and I didn't really pay no attention at first, but it was right along the lines of the conversation I was having in my head. And so this person lists all the information out and the fact that they've changed location. This is a person I'm assuming that is contracted with our company and is based out of um, Massachusetts. So I'm reading down this, for whatever reason, because it's so weird. I really don't read emails unless it's directed to me. So I really just kind of delete them or whatever, because I don't want it to clutter up my inbox. And I was reading down it for whatever reason, because this person is not very nice when they request help. They're very demanding, they're very demeaning, and they make off the cuff comments. Um, so I just said, hey, you know what? Let me, I just was reading it. And at the very last thing, it says, please note, masks, face masks, catcher's masks, and Freudian slip, right? Catcher's masks are required for the unshot up. And it really just, now it could be old, it could just be a situation where, it hasn't been, the person hasn't up, because I don't update my contact if I still have a telephone number in mind, and they took away our telephones. We don't even have telephones anymore. So I get it. It could be old. It could be, but just the fact that it's almost like a relic of a moment in time when people really felt that way, when people really thought that way, and then 2 years later, year and a half later, we know that it's fucking useless. We know that it doesn't work. We know that it's not effective. We know that it's actually causing more problems than it is good. And yet it is still justified. And there was a news report that I saw the other day where there was a Coast Guard who saved a bunch of people from John who were wheelchair bound. He saved a bunch of people. And they're going to let him go because he refuses to get the Branch Covidian shot. And the fact that this is even still possible or even plausible, it's infuriating. And the fact that no one else is infuriated, or at least to the point of like petitioning, or at the least petitioning, I won't even say what to do at the greatest, because I'm sure it'll be misconstrued. But the fact that people are okay with this, the fact that they're not people that are literally protesting this, and let me when I, there are people protesting what's going on. What I'm talking about is protesting this man doing a hell of a job and being potentially relieved of his duty because he refuses to take the Branch Covidian. And this is the greater concern that I also have, which is there are people that are completely fine with that. And I think a lot of it is just buyer's remorse because they bought into it. They still believe in it, even though the stats say something completely different. But they bought into it so hard that they can't give it up. And that's the scary part, that now people are so invested in something that when it seems like, when it becomes very clear and evident that it's really not as beneficial as people said it was, that they're so invested in it that they will still continue to believe in it, as if somehow their belief in it will make it be effective, make it be as good as it was advertised. I'll give this analogy, and then I will in this video. If I had a concoction that I made, and it's a, let's just say it's a drink, in the form of a sports drink or something, and I said, man, if you take this, if you drink this, you will never get sick. You will never ever get sick. That that is my initial sale point. If you take my concoction that I made up, or that I funded to be made up, you will never ever get sick. And then people start putting it to the test. And as things start to come out, studies become available, I use my power and influence to suffocate the results that are not favorable to my concoction, my sports drink, because it shows that it's no benefit. Whether you drink it or whether you didn't drink it, nothing changed. It didn't increase people from not getting sick, and or I should say, it didn't decrease people from not getting sick. And in some instances, it increased people getting sick. Then I come out and I say, well, it's at least over 90%. My sports drink is at least over 90% effective. And if you do happen to get sick, it'll at least keep you from being very sick. Then more data is done, more research is done. Data starts to come out about how that's even a false lie. That majority of the people who took my stuff actually ended up staying in the hospital longer, actually ended up going to the hospital more frequently than people who didn't. But I use my power and my influence to stifle the information to come out, even though it leaks out through certain media outlets. But for the most part, I use my power and influence to keep it out of the mainstream media. So unless you go look at things at other medias that are considered fringe, you would never know this. Then it gets so bad that the mainstream media can't ignore what it has become. And it then begins to report, little by little, that it seems like those who took my sports drink concoction is actually having more side effects from taking my sports drink concoction than people who didn't take my sports drink concoction. And yet and still, I continue to push a lie and say, well, even though that is the case, even though that is not what I said initially, I say, well, even though that might be true, it's still a very small amount of people who actually have this problem. And do you see how the snowball keeps rolling down the hill? and that it's literally like whack-a-mole, and every statement that gets proven to be false somehow gets brushed off and massaged into something else, another narrative. How can you still believe at this point? Is it just that you're following orders? I thought that was not an excuse. We didn't allow not the Nazis to do that. We didn't allow them to do that. We told the Nazis that there's no such thing as you just following orders. If it's immoral, if it's wrong, it's wrong. Doesn't matter if you were following orders. Matter of fact, it's so egregious. The Nazis are so egregious that they found a former Nazi who was over 100 years old and threw his ass in jail for the rest of his life. 100 and some odd year old man who served in the Nazis all of a sudden is spending the rest of his days, instead of being able to be with his family, he's spending the rest of his days in prison because he was a Nazi just doing his job. I said 2 years ago that America would become Nazi Germany. I said it. I literally said it. I said 2 years ago that when they started forcing people to put catcher's masks on their face, I said America will become Nazi Germany. It will become Nazi Germany. And then when New York started implementing two-tiered rules, I said New York State's already a version of Nazi Germany. But I guess it's just my frustration with humanity that it almost seems like we have a covenant with death, and that we refuse to annul that covenant with death and seek truth, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Um, it's very disappointing, and it's very sad and very frustrating to me that we don't do this. But at the end of the day, um, it all was written, and um, it's all coming to pass. You know, whether you believe or you don't believe, it's still coming to pass. So I guess this is the end of my vent. But again, as I close out the video, please go to my other pages. I call my alternative pages on BitChute.com, Rumble.com. I think I threw my Instagram. I don't really be on Instagram, but you know I think I threw it on there somehow, or somewhere in there. I think I threw it in there. Um, and you could reach me on or you know, if you so choose to want to, you can reach out to me on a bunch of different platforms. Um, but as it stands right now, they have me on a list somewhere, and so a lot of my content is not viewed unless it's on alternative uh, platforms such as BitChute or Rumble. So uh, again, go subscribe to everything so that you can, because I put different things different places, so you'd want to be subscribed to everything. All right, everyone have a blessed day out there. Stay safe. And I don't mean in the sense of what these demonic doctors are saying, but I mean be safe and guarding your spirit, guarding your mind, and guarding your body, because they're trying to take over every aspect of that. All right, peace.